The Joint Special Committee to examine functions at hotels for housekeeping staff will come to order. Madam Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Senator Lang. Senator Rogich. Vice Chair Backus.
Present.
Assemblymember Cole. Assemblymember Flanagan. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect all members are present and we do have a quorum. Good afternoon to all of you joining us in Northern Nevada and here in Las Vegas. It's always a pleasure to have you present. I know you're all busy, and so when you take time out of your day to join us, to engage in conversation, it means a lot to us. I also want to thank our presenters who will namely be presenting out of Carson City. And I thank them for their time today. Members, as you all have the agenda in front of you, we will take the agenda in the order it appears. The very first item is for us to engage in public comment. For those of you wishing to join us for public comment today, we ask that you please limit your remarks to 2 minutes. If you have remarks that will go beyond 2 minutes, we ask that you please submit those in writing so we can make them part of the record. We do want to get the full breadth of whatever you'd like the committee to read and review. But I want to give everybody an opportunity to participate. And for that reason, we do limit public comment to 2 minutes. And as always, we ask that you remain respectful. If you have anybody wishing to join us for public comment in Spanish, obviously we'll make sure that we help translate. Si hay alguien que gusta compartir algún comentario esta tarde, con mucho gusto estoy más que dispuesto a ayudar a traducir. With that, I'd like to invite those wishing to come forward for public comment, either here in Las Vegas or Carson City. If you could please occupy all 3 seats. I don't see anybody in Carson City, but I do see folk here. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
My name is Jolene Reyes. I have been a porter for 15 years, the Culinary Union member as well. On this past New Year's Eve, I was cleaning a restroom where I found a gun hidden in the trash can, tucked underneath the trash bag. I was alone and I got nervous and shaken, but I had to keep working because it was too busy to stop. I reported to security. They shut the restroom down. They took the gun and I was moved to a different floor. I didn't know what happened next after that. A few days later, I found pocket knives hidden in the sanitary napkin bags. That time, security took over 30 minutes to respond. It is common to find weapons in restrooms once or twice a month, knives, scissors, sometimes even guns. I've also seen guests walking through the common areas with guns concealed under their waistbands when security is present, but don't hear security tell them anything. I've seen women injecting in the public restroom sinks with a needle in their veins and a spoon of liquid on the counter. On club nights, I see people snorting lines and leaving baggies in uncapped needles in the trash cans. I've had to clean up this with tongs and sharps containers, but I'm surprised that I haven't gotten any training from the company on how to safely handle these hazard materials. I've also seen what I believe to be signs of sex trafficking. Girls, maybe 15, 16 years old, coming into restrooms crying and scared, then leaving to meet older men waiting right outside the restroom. I reported to security and been told, if you see her again, call us. I don't know if any detailed statements were ever taken or any follow-up was done. We are given safety buttons, but once a drunk guest grabbed my wrist, my safety button did not work. I waited for 30 to 45 minutes for security, but the guest was gone. No one from the company ever took a statement. Workers are alone and facing dangerous situations. We need safety equipment we can count on. That means safety devices that are tested and working, and security that responds when we call. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please, whoever's next. And sir, there's right underneath the microphone, there's a green button. Or there's a button that turns the microphone green is what I meant to say. Now it's good
There you go. Okay, my name is Mario Vargas. I'm being housekeeping, living attendant. I'm proud of being a culinary member for 25 years. I love my job. I'm proud working this industry, but based on what I personally lived through and see, I don't feel safe at work. On October 1st I was at work when the mass shooting happened around 10:45 p.m. I went down to the employee dining area, then later moved to the arena. Sitting on the middle, we're feeling like sitting ducks. After that, they moved us to the office in the basement. I stayed there from around 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. We got almost no information. Most of the information we were getting was through Facebook. Every time the door would pop open, people would scream because we have no idea of what was going on. The only thing we were told, Las Vegas was under attack, and we didn't know what was really happening. After October 1st, the company gave us some training on where to go in an earthquake, fire, or emergency, depending where we were on the building. On any, but not training on any gun or acting or shooting situation. Housekeeping department needs safety equipment that is tested and confirmed that it works. No equipment that when we found out that it's not working is on an emergency situation. We need a standard for hotel safety and training that include what to do in a shooting on a weapons shooting situation. Workers like me, we go to work. We provide a lot of excellent work and make this property run well. We deserve to go to work and come home in a safe work environment. Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Tommy Principe. I've worked as a bellman and limo driver for nearly 2 years. Regularly on weekends on the night shift, I see young women get dropped off at the valet, ask me specific room numbers, and then an hour or two later, come back down and leave. I see that often most weekends. In my mind, I think it's suspicious, but the training of the company has always been, they're guests, it's not our business. There is no reporting system that I know of or have been trained on. I don't know what to do if I think something might be sex trafficking. I also drive limos on Swing and Graveyard, and I've had guests almost bring a sex worker into the limo. I was standing there by the open door thinking, can I refuse the ride or am I allowed to say no? There is no clear protocol. Overnight, there is no manager. 0. I'm the only one at the bell desk. There's a red emergency button by my computer, but I was never trained on what it does until an older coworker told me recently that it calls security. I feel unsure and not valued. I feel the company is waiting for an incident to react instead of taking precautions. And we shouldn't have to wait for something terrible to happen before safety is taken seriously. And so I'm asking you to require mandatory training and clear protocols on sex trafficking, drugs, and guns, not just a red button and hope. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to come forward for public comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, one more time in Carson City. Seeing none, we will go to those wishing to join us over the phone.
Thank you, Chair Flores. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And just by way of just kind of giving everybody a little bit of direction, we will have a second opportunity for public comment at the end of today's meeting. So those of you who may want to add anything to the conversation, feel free to do so then. And for those of you who may have attempted to log in over the phone and may have had a difficult time doing that, please know you'll be able to join us for public comment again at the very end. Before I move on to the third agenda, which will be the approval of the minutes, I just wanted to again say thank you to all of you being here. Obviously, it means a lot to us. More importantly, just so you all know, we identify very closely with our casino industry. Personally, my mom worked on that strip for close to 30 years, was a proud member of the culinary. So I know our family understands just how important what it means to wear that uniform every day and wear it proudly, and the amazing work that you do. And I'm obviously grateful to the casino industry because it gave our family an opportunity, a shot in this state. So I just want you to know that it means a lot to us for you to be hearing your stories to be shared. And that's why we have this committee. We understand that when we talk about housekeeping, your safety is a priority to all of us. Ensuring that we have the best destination in the world means having a safe environment for the best workers of the world. And so I think all those things can complement one another. And so we appreciate you being here. Members, on the agenda, as you all have in front of you, have a copy of the minutes. As I know that you've all had an opportunity to review those, at this time I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Senator Lang has made the motion to approve the minutes for March 12, 2026, and Assemblymember Bacchus has seconded that. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll move to agenda item number 4, which is a presentation on substance use and overdose patterns in the hospitality industry, prevention, harm reduction, and response strategies. I know we have some folk that have been doing amazing work in our great university in UNR, and so it's a delight to be able to have you bring your expertise and all the work that you do to this committee. We will go to Carson City. Welcome whenever you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you, Senator Flores and the rest of the committee, for inviting us to come here today to talk on this subject. I know that you did have an opportunity to speak with our colleagues down in Southern Nevada with the Southern Nevada Health District recently to go over what specifically has been happening within Las Vegas. So I'm going to try to supplement a lot of that information that they have shared with you on more of a state level. So please let me know at the end if there's any questions or anything that you would like to expand on. My name is Morgan Green. I am with CASAT up at the University of Nevada, Reno, out of the School of Public Health. With me is my colleague, the director of CASAT, Michelle Berry. I want to focus a little bit on just an introduction as to who we are. So as CASAT, we are a workforce and development outreach center focused specifically around behavioral health. We've been in this sector for over 30 years and have been lucky enough to be able to partner with the state on many of these objectives over the years, specifically around overdose education and naloxone distribution. Our areas of expertise really are around training and developing the workforce, so ensuring that continuing education is happening for those who are working within the behavioral health field to make sure that we have the most well-trained professionals out there providing services that we can. Additionally, providing technical assistance to both agencies and individuals who are trying to develop within this field. Providing evaluation services to ensure that what we're doing is actually working. Public health initiatives and outreach, as well as working as a technology transfer center on a national level to also expand that reach. So as you were able to talk to Southern Nevada Health District in regards to overdose deaths, I want to focus a little bit more in regards to the overdoses that do not necessarily result in death, but do result in hospitalizations. Those cost us quite a bit of funds, and it gives us a bigger picture as to the overall usage within our state. As you can see, over the years, we have started to see a bit of a decline, but what we have seen is a very large increase in the number of overdoses that are stimulant related. So whether that is a combination of opiates and stimulants or stimulants alone, we've seen an exceptional number of individuals with a 143% increase since 2019. So this isn't just a single issue that we're currently facing, but it's a more complex issue that is kind of encompassing a larger population than what we previously have been working around. A little bit about where this is happening. We know that in regards to what is happening in the state, we do see higher rates of overdose within Southern Nevada just because that is where the population is. But if we want to look at in terms of representation, we do see significant portions of the state that are higher than average in regards to overdoses, specifically within Washoe County and our neighboring counties. A lot of that is along our more common trafficking routes. And again, bringing this back to the stimulant impact. Over 75% of overdose deaths in Nevada did include a stimulant as of 2024. 43% of those overdose deaths also involved an opiate. So as we can see, this is shifting. What we have previously seen in years before is that this was an unintentional mixture. Now we are seeing it as an intentional choice for people to be utilizing both of those substances together. A lot of this is based around blue-collar work in order to help people get through the day and be more efficient. But unfortunately, we also see the flip side of that as well. So opioid and stimulant deaths have increased over 260% from 2019 to 2024. So this is an ongoing issue, and we continue to see those numbers going up, while we do see the overall opioid rates starting to decline. When we're looking specifically at our hospitality industry, I know you saw the heat maps around the Strip in the Las Vegas area, so I wanted to point out a couple of our more tourist-based areas as well. So around our Sparks region, we can see that this is focused around Victorian Square, which is where a lot of our casinos are located around Sparks. And those hotspots are also focused around those same areas. So this is where our population tends to congregate, so it's not really a surprise, but it's just something to keep in mind as we try to ensure that we have resources located in the areas that we know people are going to be accessing substances more readily. Same thing for the Reno downtown area. So this is basically the Reno Strip. We can see that all along that region is truly where the major hotspots are. So again, this is where people tend to congregate. So this is where we see a lot of activity. And then South Lake Tahoe. So as we can see, the highest rates around South Lake Tahoe are again based around those touristy regions where the casinos and more entertainment industries are located. So it just again helps us identify locations that we want to ensure that we're targeting and make sure that resources are available. And our hospitality industry is really an important partnership in regards to all of that to ensure that those things do become accessible. So looking at beyond just the hospitality, but also including just our bars in general. We do have a statewide opiate antagonistic plan that is in place. Within that, it is called for an expansion of community naloxone access around the hospitality industry to ensure that we're not just reaching our local populations, but also those tourists who are coming in. Since 2018, when this initiative has started, we have distributed over 2,000 units of naloxone just to casinos and bars themselves to ensure that they have access to that. Most of that naloxone has been going directly to security. It has not been made available to the individuals who are attending or are really coming in to visit with the casinos or anything like that. So that is something just to be aware of, that it is for internal use. Within that, over 200 casino and bar staff have been trained around opioid overdose. We want to ensure that people, if they do have access to this medication, they know how to use it and they know how to identify people that they need to be used for. Now, most of that training has been for individuals who've been in security. So we want to just kind of emphasize that does not mean that all staff within these industries have been exposed to this training. It really has been security heavy, as well as bartenders. Beyond us, we work with several partnering agencies. We're a primary distribution point for naloxone. We work with a lot of other agencies who then also distribute beyond their own agency themselves. A big partnership has been with our prevention coalitions, who have worked closely with many of the organizations within their direct communities, including casinos and bars. They have also, beyond us, distributed almost 1,000 units to those industries as well. Within 2025 alone, we've distributed over 1,500 units to casinos and bars. So some actions that have been taken within this initiative. We have several data partnerships. We work very strongly with our partners in OD2A, which is also in our School of Public Health. They continuously identify different trends that are happening. We also are partners with our Fund for Resilient Nevada to initiate a Nevada Opioid Center of Excellence to ensure that training is widespread so people have access to this at no cost. So if there is an interest around anything regarding how to serve individuals who are struggling around opiates, they have access to learn more around that. We also have been able in this last year to launch our mobile treatment units, also funded through FRN. This has allowed us to reach out into our rural regions and be able to provide services in areas that have traditionally been scarce of resources around that. So this is really a new initiative. We're excited to see how that works, and we're hoping that that is also going to be something that we can partner around this industry as well. And lastly, our large partnership that has been able to allow us to make naloxone available has been with the State Opioid Response Grant. This has helped us with the naloxone and test strip distribution, initiate and placement of vending machines, redistribution of expiring product to try to ensure that we're getting it in the hands that need it, and then continuous evaluation of that just to make sure that we know that people are being able to use the training that they're receiving and that the people who need it are actually accessing it. Now, through all of this, I do want to bring up one of the initiatives that we have been partners in that may be something for consideration as things move forward. We have been partners with the Safer Nights Project since 2022. Safer Nights has worked very closely with our bars up here in Northern Nevada. They have been the organization that has oftentimes put together our beer crawls or our wine crawls. And because of that relationship they have already had with the bars around our region, they have been able to work specifically in regards to ongoing training for bartenders. We know that bartenders oftentimes don't stay in one location. They travel to different bars regularly. So we know if we continuously train, that training goes beyond what we have started with. This initiative has also worked to ensure that these bars have naloxone and test strips available for the patrons who come in, whether some of these bars have placed them under the counter and are available by request, but many of these bars have started placing these within the bathrooms so that people can go in there and access these things anonymously so that there isn't a stigma attached to that. They're not concerned about that piece, and we've had quite a bit of success with that. In 2025, this initiative turned over into the OD2A to extend beyond our Washoe County region and try to implement some more of this within other parts of the state. So we're hoping to see that continue to grow and be something that is considered. Oftentimes, these are independent bars. They're not associated with our hospitality or casinos. So this is something that we can continue to try to grow and develop within this larger region as well. So future considerations, we are heavily in alignment with what Southern Nevada Health District has presented before, but we would just kind of want to point out with some of our specializations. So current landscape, we really want to continue to encourage that data surveillance. It allows us to identify what those hotspots are, as well as where we need to provide better linkage of care for individuals who are struggling and overdose prevention. We also need to be aware of the continuously vague funding that is really kind of coming up at our federal level. We don't know necessarily where the priorities lie there these days, and so oftentimes that funding is starting to shift and we're relying heavier and heavier on state funds. An example of this has been the shift for test strips, which have recently been determined by the federal agencies that they are no longer going to be funded by federal funds, and now we're relying on state funds for that. We just want to be aware that this is kind of a continuing trend to ensure that as these changes come, the state is aware of that. For strategic priorities, we really want to sustain existing programs that provide surveillance and critical intervention, as well as promote continued accessibility for naloxone and test strips. We find that an informed public is able to intervene better upon their own behalf. And expansion opportunities that we see within this area is expanding linkage programs, so ensuring that people, if they are struggling, they do end up in the hospital, that there is easy linkage for when they are released and directly into treatment services. Oftentimes, there's a gap in time when people do have that we lose a lot of people because they've changed their minds. So we just want to kind of solidify a lot of that linkage, promote warrant handoff, and then enhance post-vention research. So just kind of continuing to ensure that if we hear that somebody has had an issue, no matter where it is, that somebody is there to be able to intervene on their behalf later. That is the information I have for you today. Here's my contact information for any future questions, but I will sit back if you guys have questions for me now.
Thank you again for the presentation and joining us today. Members, any questions? We'll start with Vice Chair Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Green, for your presentation. I did have some questions and just some interesting things that stood out to me on the slide that says where it is happening, and it's a state map with our counties. The thing that stood out to me was obviously Lincoln County, and I saw that it's at the highest level of 56 opioid overdose rates per 100,000 pop, and then I checked out the pop. It looks like, I mean, because that could be like 2 within the like 4,000 population is how I would assume. It looks like you guys didn't prepare this, and I tried to go online and do a little more research on it. But do you have any idea like where, if there's hotspots in Lincoln County is one of my questions. And then my second question would be, I know you guys have implemented the mobile outreach, and if mobile outreach is going into Lincoln County.
Those are fair questions. I haven't had an opportunity to look close enough at the hotspot map around Lincoln County to identify if there are specific locations. We have been able to do that for like Eureka County, but that's definitely something I will take a closer look at. As for the mobile units, yes, we do have a mobile unit that is scheduled to go into Lincoln County. Right now, I believe that they are expecting to be there twice a month with attached ongoing telehealth services for those times in between. Those calendars should be available, and we try to promote them through our social media to make sure that people in the communities are aware that they are going to be coming out. So I will see when the next scheduled appointment is supposed to be.
Thank you. And then Chair, I just have another quick question, if that'd be okay.
Please.
And then also looking at your naloxone distribution to bars and casino, you had noted that 203 casino and bar staff have been trained in overdose response. And I was kind of curious, I didn't know if that's just isolated to the Reno Sparks area or if that's throughout the state. And just a little more on that training, is that through the university or who's doing the training? I was just kind of curious about that.
Those are great questions. So within this context, this is training that I have done personally. It has primarily been Reno Sparks, South Tahoe, and Douglas County that I have done most of the training within. Outside of that region, oftentimes we are relying on our partnerships with the coalitions. The coalitions have done training beyond that. They don't have to report those direct numbers to me in regards to who they are training based on what this funding is asking. So I don't know the numbers of individuals that they have trained, but those are the ones that we at CASAT have personally trained.
If I could ask a follow-up just for clarity.
Please do.
Just to clarify, I know you're the one that's going out there doing the training. Do like the facilities reach out to you? How does that like work out, like to connect you to be able to train individuals in the casino?
Yeah, so a lot of it, they've reached out or it's word of mouth. A lot of times it's individuals who have moved from one location to another, and then they have started a new initiative within their casino. And so that has been kind of the most common way to do it. We've also, again, worked heavily with our coalitions who've identified and have talked to casinos that have wanted people to come out. And so that has been the other avenue that we've been using to get in with the casinos.
Thank you so much for that.
Members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Flanagan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I was curious, because in how Reno is laid out and how close the campus is to casinos, is there any information, more detailed information on the populations of students, or more on who being committing the suicides or overdosing? Just any more vivid picture of who?
We do know that the most common overdose risk population are individuals 18 to 45. So that does include a college age range. From the data that we've collected at the university amongst university students, I believe we've had one overdose on campus in the last 3 years. We have had overdoses that have occurred off campus within our community. They have not accounted for the vast majority of the individuals who have accounted for overdoses, but we are part of the community, so we do share that risk.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the work you're doing, and I'm very happy to hear that obviously properties are working with you and they're inviting you. I'm curious to know, when you're invited, I'm assuming, but please correct me if I'm wrong, that they already have a set of individuals that likely have some level of training similar to what you offer, but when you're invited to join them, it's to expand that training to other workers? Because I would assume that there's some type of protocol in place already. Is that correct?
I have seen locations with some level of protocol, and I've seen plenty of locations that have had zero protocol up to this point. So it's not a universal. A lot of times the larger, from my experience, I will throw out, the larger casino chains such as Caesars has protocols, but the more independent, smaller casinos oftentimes don't. I'm generally invited because something has happened and they have realized that this is a shortcoming that they have. So oftentimes this is kind of the first step into developing a lot of those protocols.
Understood. Well, then we look forward to working alongside of you to continue to build on those relationships and really remind folk of just how important the work you do is and how important it is for the folk in their casinos or whatever property have your level of training. And then I'm assuming, because there's obviously a revolving door in any industry, that we want to make it a annual or biannual training so that we're constantly training folk and we always have somebody ready. Beyond that, is there anything else we can do? One of the things that we're looking at in this committee is trying to identify a way for us to move forward where we're taking care of such an important industry in our state while simultaneously acknowledging all the humans that have to make that work every single day, while making sure that the people that are visiting are all doing it in a safe way. So if there's any last closing remarks or thoughts on how we can do that more effectively, I saw your recommendations here. But if there's anything else that we could give you a platform for, please share.
I don't have any direct recommendations, but I do have one thing just to keep in mind as these things develop. There's two very different things that are happening in regards to ensuring that internally there's protocols and staff have training and they have access to naloxone to respond when they come across a situation. But the second is to ensure that individuals who are patronizing these locations also have access to these resources as well. And those are two very different pathways. So as things develop, just trying to keep that in mind, that those are two very different things that are happening at the same time.
Makes sense. And again, thank you for your time and thank you for joining us today. Oops, I forgot to turn off my cell phone. Please turn off your phones. Got my phone ringing over here. With that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 5, which will be broken up into a few different presenters who are joining us today, and grateful for them. We do have folk joining us from the Reno Police Department, and I wanted to just take a quick second because we weren't unclear whether or not we would be able to have somebody joining us, because we recently learned that there was a member of the Reno Police Department who unfortunately passed away. So we express our condolences to all those impacted by that passing, and honor the name of the family for the work that was done. With that, whoever wishes to join us from the Reno Police Department, if you could please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. Corey Sulfrino representing the Reno Police Department, and it's nostalgic to be back in this building after a few-year hiatus, so nice to see some familiar faces. It was, I want to say, 2015, 2017 when Assemblywoman Tolles and I and a coalition of law enforcement worked across the aisle with the ACLU, with public defenders, and with the district attorney's office to create human trafficking legislation that allowed us to go into the resort corridor, to allow us to go into hotels and protect our most vulnerable population. So over the course of the last 13 weeks, my life has been turned a little bit upside down. So I will take the F on the presentation today and not getting it to you guys in a timely fashion, but I do have some law enforcement sensitive material that I want to bring up to this committee today to be able to make informed decisions on what we are doing in Northern Nevada and how we are working regionally across jurisdictions. Our human exploitation and trafficking team is our team that works in that space, that works out in the resort corridor. And as my current position of the Chief of Police for the Reno Police Department, I am very sensitive to the workers who came forward and listened to public comment and listened to it in City Council and County Commission, and obviously in this very institution in the state legislature. So I appreciate them coming forward with their concerns, and I want to make sure that we are listening to everybody and providing good information, not only for our public, but for our workers. I'm a big proponent of studying incidents at a national level, whether they're active assailants, whether they're mass tragedies. The 9/11 Commission report showed one of the biggest significant failures in information sharing in silos in the history of America. So we want to make sure that we're sharing information, that we're taking that training, and that we're using it for good purposes, because our casino workers and industry are our eyes and our ears out there. There's only 3 ways that we can take enforcement action when we're working in the space of law enforcement. It's if a call for service is placed and we come to the scene of a crime and we collect evidence and we determine and make an arrest based upon probable cause, or our officers can observe it out in the field and it happens right in front of them. The only other way that we know crime is or isn't happening is if it's reported in some sort of victimization type survey. So we want our community to feel comfortable to the extent that they can tell us what's happening in those spaces, and our casino workers are our eyes and our ears in there. So we want to make sure that they're well trained and informed on what's happening in those spaces. Just a brief overview, if you will, Chair, from the Heat Unit, our 2025 results. We had 143 arrests, 287 charges filed, 55 victims recovered, 60 convictions, 18 female juveniles recovered, 37 adult females recovered, 700 plus years in sentences received, and 700 years of sentences received, including 6 life sentences. So that's just some of the work that they were able to do. And I know that we're playing catch up to Southern Nevada. They have done a robust job in being able to develop these teams and really work in that space. Kudos to Sheriff McMahill and the LVMPD team for what they've done. And we've tried to mimic their model up here in Northern Nevada, and we've gotten some great success with that. I think the next piece that we're missing as far as this community and this community is concerned is training those individuals and not preparing them to be law enforcement officers, but preparing them to know what to look for in hotel rooms, in those spaces when they are encountering things that might be indicative of human trafficking, narcotics trafficking, and or people being held against their will. We did have some recommendations that we want to make based upon this, what we could do moving forward, and that's first and foremost is requiring paid practical training for hotel staff. Our team routinely goes out and does training across jurisdictions with civic organizations, with parents in the school space so they know what their kids are and are not doing. We found out that it's too late in time to start in the high schools. We have to start, unfortunately, in the elementary schools and the middle schools, or we might miss our opportunities for those information sharing sessions with parents and juveniles alike. Secondarily, what we want to do is create a standard reporting path for the hotel owners and for the larger hotel resort corridor, if you will, for them to understand what those policies and procedures are. I heard a lot of the public comment in here about not knowing what to do when something just didn't look right. We talk about those words in the academy when you're a brand new rookie officer, something just didn't look right. A lot of times if it doesn't look right and we ask those few questions, we can prevent future victimology, and that's what we want to be able to do, is delineate a process by which they know who to call, when to call, and those processes are clearly delineated. And then finally, the accountability piece at the year end is bringing those data sets together to make sure that what we're doing is making a difference, and if it isn't, providing additional training to ensure that it is. I wanted to have more of a general conversation today, so I'm here to answer some questions with Chief Crawforth from the Sparks Police Department and Captain Joe Colacurcio from the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, because all of their efforts are part in this regional team. We do have close jurisdictional ties in Northern Nevada, so we work across jurisdictional boundaries, and all of their members are represented in the HEAT team, and we want to make sure that they're recognized for that. Additionally, the Washoe County School Police does provide officers to that initiative, as well as the Washoe County District Attorney's Office, because it is important to have dedicated prosecutors that understand the law, understand how to go forward with it, and educate the public. And just anecdotally, Chair, I want to thank you for recognizing our officer. Obviously, it's been a tumultuous 13 weeks for the Reno Police Department, and the day after I was sworn in as chief, we did end up losing one of our own, a 13-year detective of our organization. So for my department to your legislative body, sir, thank you for recognizing our loss, and happy to entertain any questions you may have.
And we do thank you again for joining us today. We understand how incredibly busy you are, everything that's happening outside of this building to protect Nevada. And so we thank you. With that, members, we will open it up for questions. We'll start off with Senator Rogich, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for testifying today, and my condolences to the department and the family of the officer who has recently passed. When a woman has been arrested for a prostitution-related offense and later released from custody, does the data indicate whether publicly available arrest and release information may be used by traffickers to target that victim, that vulnerable victim, to either be able to contact her or recontact her?
Chair, through you to Senator Corey Solferino for the record. That's a great question, ma'am. I think what we've done is really we've taken a step back. We're trying not to arrest the worker. We're trying to go after that and take a true victim-centered approach and go after the trafficker. So in those instances where we do have to make an arrest in those spaces to protect that individual, actually I want to bring Captain Colacurcio up here and give credit where credit is due, because he was able, when he was the captain of the detention facility in Northern Nevada, worked with our victim advocate to create a questionnaire that is issued on all the tablets for all the inmates that are in there, because we do know that when victims are arrested and that they do time, that the first person to come out and post their bail or get them out of custody is their trafficker. So trying to get them resources when they're in custody, and the success that we've had with our victim advocacy group and with our research and development in creating this questionnaire where we can identify those individuals while they're in custody before they get released, so we're not handing them back to the very traffickers that are trafficking them. Joe, do you have anything additional for that?
Captain Goldkurtz here for the record. So it is one of the things that I'll continue to add on that as the chief was alluding to, it also helps us identify those victims that aren't identified or aren't arrested for the actual charge. So they may be arrested for something unrelated, and it allows them to quietly answer these questions, and then this information is provided to the victim advocate, who then can reach out to that individual and can quietly have a conversation without everyone knowing that maybe she is a victim or a victim of being trafficked. So it allows everybody to have that opportunity to let them know, and us to hopefully take a chance at, helping that victim out.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? I don't believe I see any. Could you help me, and I appreciate the suggestions. Again, we are looking for all recommendations, so I really do appreciate your time and expertise in this. Presently, when there is a identified, and maybe we can go in either one of these three buckets, but if, let's talk about guns, for example, first. If there's a call for somebody with a weapon, or a weapon was recovered on a property, do we keep data on your end to be able to, and I understand we don't have that today, but I am curious to know, is that something we would be able to extract eventually and have an idea of how many calls we're getting related to a weapon, for example?
Chair Flores, Corey Solferino for the record. We do, and I was wishing we had better information today regarding the completion of our project for our CAD RMS system. It's met some continual delays, but we are navigating that space. One of the first things I did when I came into the Reno Police Department was establish those metrics year over year. So we're comparing crime trends, we're comparing guns recovered off the street, both in crimes that are committed and found property. There is an opportunity for us using GIS data to determine our found property when casinos, when hotels do call us to recover basically found property. When no one claims it, run it, make sure that it's not wanted, and then we book it for safekeeping. I can get that data for you, and I will have that to you before the beginning of the next session, sir.
Thank you. And then you started off, and I remember that coalition where so many different members of law enforcement, nonprofits, community leaders, and electeds came together. But could you expand a little bit on, after that formation, what we've seen, trends, how we've been able to better work together? I understand after 1 October, we've passed so many different pieces of legislation so that we can better communicate. We realized just getting the cell phone to an individual, how difficult that became when somebody was in the hospital versus somebody who may have been taken to flown via helicopter to a different location, et cetera, and these very complex scenarios that make it difficult for us to understand exactly where everybody's at and pinpoint what belongs to who. But just in general, focusing just on the human trafficking side of the situation, can you talk to me about how the information moves from the time we identify a potential individual who's being trafficked or versus an individual who we believe is involved in a sex ring? I'm just curious to know how this information is traveling and moving.
Yes, sir. Chair Flores, Corey Solferino for the record. It's a great question, sir, and it's pick up the phone. It's, work across the aisle, work with our regional teams. Not to sound callous, but get the best bang for our buck. Is this individual a prohibited person with a firearm? Are they dealing narcotics? Are they trafficking individuals? Working with our local prosecutor's office to ensure that we're developing strong cases and that we're sharing that information. We're using RiskSafe to deconflict matters that maybe other federal entities are working on in our jurisdictions, unbeknownst to us, identifying the same people. So that information sharing piece is critical to not only officer safety, but not duplicating, triplicating efforts as we're building cases and keeping those prohibited people that are the most dangerous to our society and to our community, making sure that we have charges that stick and we get them off the street, sir.
Thank you. And then lastly, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to a little bit of the presentation that we had just right before yours on some of that training that's being offered. I know one of the things you mentioned is training on, you see something, say something, and having that trained eye just to identify something odd. Is that something that law enforcement also offers, or is there a partner or a nonprofit that you work with who helps in that realm? I'm just trying to connect the dots on how we can do that more effectively when working with some of our hospitality workers.
Chair Flores, Corey Solferino for the record. We work with nonprofit groups, Kim Yeager and Traffickers Against Trucking, or Trucking Against Traffickers, and a lot of our detectives and sergeants that have been working or have promoted from within the unit are our advocacy groups. They're the ones that are going out to our schools. They're the ones that are educating parents. They're the ones that are educating regional law enforcement partners, even line officers. I think back to myself as a young patrolman when you'd visit parks in the evening, or you'd visit and do your area checks in parking garages, and you saw something that just didn't look right, but you ran them. There was no indicia of any criminal activity that was taking place, but things just didn't look right. And training the line officers to identify these and placing a call. And I can tell you unequivocally, everybody that's partnered with this, and Chief Crawforth from the Sparks Police Department is also in the room, and I want him to be recognized too for his efforts in this space and providing resources, and Sheriff Balaam and Chief Baker with Washoe County School District Police. It's a collaborative effort working across the aisle, sharing that information and making sure that we are educating not only our law enforcement partners, but our educators, our parents, of what to look for. So getting into the hotel, well, I can't advocate that I can train everybody. We would be welcomed in to go in there and do 60-minute training or 30-minute briefing training on just basic indicators of what to look for, and creating flashcards of just known things and processes of who to call. And if you can't reach us at the local level, which I assure you that you can, the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So those policies are clearly delineated so those things don't go unreported, and more people are harmed as a result of it.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Senator Lang, please.
Thank you. I just have a quick question about, are you seeing male trafficking? As I know we talk a lot about the female trafficking, but are you also seeing the male trafficking? And if so, what percentage do you see, and what kind of awareness is being brought to that subject?
Chair, through you to Senator Lang, Corey Solferino for the record. We do see it, ma'am, to extremely lesser degree. I think if we're benign to the fact that it doesn't happen to all race, genders, and from 18 to juvenile to 45 to 50, if we're not looking in the right space, then we're missing it. So it happens all over the space, but it is unfortunately primary female in Northern Nevada is what we're seeing.
Vice Chair, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I also kind of wanted to ask a question just so that I can congratulate Chief of Police on your permanent position. It's good to see you back
Yes,
before the
Thank you.
legislature. With that, my question was, you kind of had identified that one of the keys is like being able to identify prohibited persons. And I know when we went into special session, we had passed a bill to look at a corridor court for Clark County, our resort corridor. I know you're watching closely what's happening with like LVMPD's HEAT program, and you guys are implementing it with the various departments up north. Is that something you kind of are looking at to see whether or not that may be useful for the north as well?
Chair, through you to Assemblywoman Corey Solferino for the record. I would absolutely love to do that, but I can't speak on behalf of the bench. So I know that when I was in this very building several years ago, that a young public defender who is now a Reno Justice Court Justice, Judge Birchie, and I have had conversations at different levels on working with our unhoused population, mental health court, and some of those things. I would love to entertain some more discussions down there, because I think when you have law enforcement aligned, when you have the district attorney or the city attorney's office aligned and the bench aligned, that we make good decisions and that we get the people off the streets that are the biggest predators to our communities. So I would absolutely love to dive in a little bit more down south on what they're doing and seeing where we could do that up north and bring that energy to Northern Nevada.
Thank you.
Last chance, members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again for joining us in this conversation. We look forward to continue to work alongside it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to our next presenter, Chief Crawford. If you could please come forward from Sparks. And thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I asked my partners here to stay up here. I think as Chief Solferino has stated, and sorry for the record, Chris Crawford, Police Chief for the City of Sparks. We work pretty collaboratively in the north, like we don't see in a lot of places. So as I think you're all aware, the City of Sparks and the City of Reno are a sign that differentiates. Our population in Sparks is about half of the City of Reno, about 120,000 people. I'm going to get into a little bit of the specifics of Sparks, which may help kind of show you the specifics of what's occurring a little bit, at least as far as our city. Chief Solferino covered our regional approach. One point that I did want to add to that is we do have 2 dedicated victim advocates dedicated to our HEAT team, so which is really helping with that approach on that victim-centered approach, making sure that we're not adding more pressure to our victims and focusing on truly ending and addressing the primary issues. So looking at our statistics throughout the city of Sparks, I identified 3 properties. We primarily have small casinos within the city of Sparks, what I would deem as a resort property, which was kind of the expectation of this is the Nugget, which is our biggest one. It has concert venues and swimming pool, all that traditional stuff that is within resort communities. We also have, which is specific to our city, is 2 significant truck stops. As all of you are aware, Interstate 80 runs through our corridor. It is well known for trafficking of all sorts, including human trafficking. We have many regional teams dedicated to the different types of trafficking. Within one of those truck stops is a resort property known as the Western Village, which adds to some additional trafficking possibilities because of how much we have people staying and commuting and stopping in our city before they travel on to the Bay Area. Obviously, a lot of traffic comes into the Reno-Sparks corridor from the San Francisco-Sacramento area, which brings in a lot of trafficking. Some of the questions that were dedicated to us were what we're seeing in the city of Sparks and the role of hospitality properties. Cooperation, as Chief Solferino has testified to, is the real key. Our connections are primarily with the security folks within each of these places. That is usually our reporting folks. I think to the questions that have been asked, while we can't provide nonstop training to our partners in the resort communities, there is definitely the ability for us to create some training for all staff, specifically the hospitality staff, as we've heard some testimony about. We are doing that to what we can right now, but I think there's some avenues where we can create maybe some virtual type things. Our properties are good partners with us. They share some of their video surveillance and other technologies with us to help us combat these crimes. And they provide the crucial intelligence to us, which has been testified to, as they're many times the ones that are reporting to us that questionable behavior that just doesn't seem right. They are identifying victims and traffickers for us. And when I get to the victim profiles, what we're seeing in the city of Sparks primarily is female juveniles. The age of 13 to 15 is our most common thing we're seeing in the city of Sparks. We do have some males, so we are addressing that. Most of these females are reported to our agencies or other surrounding agencies as runaways. So we were seeing them trafficked within usually a matter of 7 to 10 days of being reported. They are generally lured to our resort properties through the indication that they're going to attend parties, join friends, just the general casino atmosphere, the arcades. We do have a large arcade within the Nugget Casino. And that's usually where things start to turn terrible for these folks. Traffickers, especially those from the out-of-town area, we believe select a lot of properties within Sparks. The Nugget, if you're not aware, Interstate 80 actually goes over the top of the Nugget casino floor, which is interesting, but there is an off-ramp directly to the casino and an on and off ramp on the other side of the casino, so it's very easy access in and out. What we do see in the city of Sparks is that our hotel rates are generally about half of what they are in downtown Reno. So we also see that that's a big part of why we're seeing a lot of trafficking happening, especially coming from the Bay Area, just cost-wise for the traffickers. They're looking for that lower rate. Just to give you a quick example of what we've seen, we recently a case that we had of a 16-year-old female at the time. She was recruited out of Oakland, California. She was a runaway, had been reported as a runaway quite a few times. Within 3 days of that, she was at the Nugget Casino. She was told she was going to a party there. She showed up with some known gang members and then was actually transferred to another trafficker. So that is the common thing that we're seeing. She obviously met with our victim advocates and our detectives and has been returned home and gone through a very terrible process. At the end result of that, just as of last month, this trafficker was sentenced to 72 months of federal prison with 5 years of probation after that. As our regional teams, another point that Chair Flores asked about was how we're addressing this as the regional approach. Not only is it law enforcement, but our multidisciplinary team. We work with our district attorney's office, a lot of our social services, and there is regular case review happening between all of our detectives and these folks to make sure that we're providing as much and the best services that we can to victims of trafficking. Some of those other folks are the caseworkers from our Human Services Agency, and we also include juvenile probation staff from our juvenile center here in our region. Some of the questions posed as well was data collection. Chief Solferino really discussed that. We are all, as you've heard a couple times, regionally working on a new records management system and our dispatch system. We're doing that all together, which will definitely improve things amongst us by having all that same information, that whoever is working a case or working an incident has the most vital information regardless of what agency they work for. Notable trends in our hotel resort things specific to the city of Sparks. I pulled and asked our folks to pull some data for a 3-year time span that only identified the Nugget Hotel, the Western Village, and our newest Legends Bay Casino near our marina. Over that 3-year time span, there was a total of 358 cases, 3 of those being robberies, 138 domestic disturbances, and of a point, many times our domestic disturbances are things related to human trafficking that actually identifies that. It's called in as domestic, and many times we're finding out at those casinos specifically that is issues between the person being trafficked and the trafficker. 2 runaways, 22 different sexual offenses, and then 173 unwanted subjects. One trend we see within the human trafficking era is roughly 10% of cases that we're seeing could be tied into human trafficking and aren't investigated that way. They're investigated for the primary thing. So if we took a look at that, we're seeing roughly 12 cases a year that are going through the casinos and Sparks that are never being reported as human trafficking. And with that, I will rest and be open for questions. Thank you.
And thank you again for joining us today. And thank you for the information you provided. It's very easy to follow. Members, any questions? We'll start off with Vice Chair. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you so much, Chair, for the opportunity to ask a question. And I may, just because I'm not familiar with the terminology and may confuse some stuff, but and I may stand corrected, you had mentioned unwanted subjects, and I think there was 173 unwanted subjects. Can you elaborate what that means?
Absolutely, through you, Chair. Chris Crawford, for the record, what that means for us is when a casino is reporting someone that they don't want there, generally that turns into a trespassing. Someone that they may have asked not to be at the casino anymore, or 86th as they usually call it, trespassing them from the property. That's generally what that is.
Thank you for that. And then I do have a question. I just need to clarify what that meant. I understood it to probably mean what you were thinking it was, because I noticed in your guys' handout on human trafficking that you provided the committee that the properties have access now to specialized technology, and one was facial recognition. And so I thought that was quite unique, and was curious if, because of like almost where we're going with technology, it seems like there could also be a bump in cases as well, like in this situation where you have unwanted subjects. I assume, are the casinos like now with the technology able to like report back to you all faster?
Through you, Chair, Chris Crawford, for the record, yeah, that is something that they are, that's obviously a hot button topic, as I'm sure you all are aware. They are reporting much quicker. Many of our resort properties have pretty substantial surveillance, pretty new surveillance, so they are getting to report that. Obviously, we have to work through that. That is just an investigative tool for us, but it is speeding things up. It is also able, if we know things are occurring, it helps us with identifying where people are within the casino with their support.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Senator Rovich, please.
Thank you, Chair. Based on the data, how can housekeeping observations inside guest rooms support timely law enforcement involvement when criminal activity is observed?
Through you, Chair, Chris Crawford, for the record, I think the answer to that question is really the training within the hospitality folks, is how we identify an annual training so they know. We've heard that testimony today of we as humans, we know when something's just not right. We just need to have the avenues where it's reported. Generally, it's going to be reported through security, but I think that training that would probably happen annually that would be from the resorts themselves. It's something we can put together through them, but we need their help on identifying all of their staff being able to have a direct report to us.
And members, any additional questions? Seeing none, I think one of the things we can do offline is maybe set up an additional meeting where we could potentially have the folk that are present now and maybe some other key individuals that you think would be important and try to come up with a plan on what that training would look like and how we could package that together and present it to a lot of the stakeholders. I'm sure that they're going to be very excited to work alongside of you. This is something that's important for everybody. But I think them knowing that you have that ability to do it, here's how it would work, here's how much time we need, I think will make it very easy for folk to start coming to the table and working together. So thank you again, and your willingness to join us today. Any closing remarks you may have or anything else you wish to throw to the suggestion bucket?
No, sir, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chief. Good seeing all of you. And next, we'd like to invite our Washoe County Sheriff's Office, Adam Miller, please.
Senator Flores, Captain Cole Curcio for the record. Pretty much we're here in support of the Reno Police Department, Sparks Police Department, Washoe County Schools, and all our regional partners, the DA's office. As most of as was explained earlier, these hotels fall within the jurisdiction of Sparks and the city of Reno. So as regional teams, we support them in every which way, and then provide that collaborative effort. One of the things that I will bring to the table is that we've had over 50 outreach or presentations that we have used working with casinos and individuals throughout the area in order to work and provide this information and how to report that. But I just would like to reiterate, I think the biggest thing is if you see something, say something, and that's really what it comes down to for trafficking or anything that goes on that would lead to a criminal activity, and that's a good start. So I believe we do a very good job in the northern Nevada area, not only from the sheriff's office and the other regional agencies, but working with our resort casinos and having good open, lines of communication with security and all that allow us to, if there is something to happen, we can make a difference, hopefully.
Thank you. I know a lot of the questions have already been discussed, but I still want to give members an opportunity should we have any additional questions. Seeing none, then I'll extend that same invite to you so that we have all three jurisdictions present and work in a collaborative way. I know there's a lot of work we can do together.
Chair, if I may, Corey Solferino for the record. When I get back, I will work with our team and we will get you a brief outline of what we could provide, whether it's in a PowerPoint format or something to use so our time is spent more judiciously because I know everybody's time is important. We do a lot of these community presentations. It wouldn't take a whole lot to put something together that we could share with our casino resort corridors to make it more valuable for them. So hopefully I'll get that back to your committee secretary here within the next week or so, sir.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Thank you again for joining us. Have a good day. And with that, we go ahead and close out that presentation item, and we will next invite Jessica Kay, who had an opportunity to join us at the previous hearing, who I know is a licensed clinical social worker and brought a abundance of expertise to this conversation, particularly surrounding human trafficking. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Jessica Kay. I am a Nevada resident. I'm a survivor of human trafficking and an LCSW. I have been working with the Culinary Union and advising them on human trafficking. I come before you with both lived experience and professional experience working with not only complex trauma, human trafficking, and exploitation. Culinary Union members are among the people closest to what actually happens inside hotel rooms. And right now, they're not safe. As a survivor of both sex trafficking and domestic violence, I know what trafficking looks and feels like from the inside. Professionally, I have helped build residential programs here in Nevada for child victims of sex trafficking. I have sat with child victims. I have heard their stories. And what I'm presenting to you today is not abstract data or theory. It's the realities of people's lives. This commission's first hearing focused largely on the Las Vegas Strip. Today, I want to shift that focus to off-strip hotel and casinos that are throughout our community. I want to use my time today to give this committee a clearer picture of what the data tells us about trafficking occurring off-strip, what the courts have already confirmed, where critical gaps in data exist, and what needs to change if we are serious about prevention and safety. There are three main points I want to make today. First, in the local market, children are everywhere, and they often blend in. Many victims do not look the way that people expect trafficking victims to look. They look like teenagers, walking through casinos, sitting in food courts, playing in the arcade, and moving between hotel rooms unnoticed. Second, we need better systems for tracking violent incidents from hotel rooms to courtrooms. Right now, it is really difficult to follow an incident from a Metro Police report to a court record to a jail record. Those gaps prevent us from identifying patterns of violence, exploitation, trafficking, and repeat offenders. If we cannot connect the data, we cannot fully understand the scope of harm that is happening in these properties, and we cannot build effective strategies to protect our most vulnerable community members. Third, I believe we all need to be more willing to sit with the reality of the devastating violence that can be inflicted upon children inside Nevada hotel rooms. These are not isolated incidents. These are children experiencing profound trauma behind closed doors in properties across our community. We cannot address hotel safely honestly without acknowledging that. I want to start with the numbers from large casino hotels located throughout the local market within Metro's jurisdiction. These figures come from responses to public record requests. When we focus specifically on police calls for service coded as child molestation, sexual assault, or abuse and neglect, the data reveals a troubling pattern. From May 19, 2019 through May 26, there were many calls for service related to these offenses. However, the 77 incidents I am discussing today are only the calls that ultimately resulted in a Metro incident crime report or an arrest report. In other words, these are not all the calls to police. They are the subset serious enough or substantiated enough to generate formal police documentation. I do have the report right here, and I can submit that for the record. Within these 77 documented incidents, 11 child molestation incidents resulted in a Metro crime incident report. 40 sexual assault incidents resulted in a Metro incident crime report, and 2 resulted in arrest report. 16 abuse neglect incidents resulted in a Metro crime incident report, and 8 resulted in an arrest report. How many of these 77 incidents involved children or juveniles? We know that at minimum, all 11 child molestation incidents involved minors. Additionally, at least 5 of the 40 sexual assault incidents involved juveniles. And this committee needs to understand something important about the local market specifically. Minors are a normal part of the environment. Unlike strip properties, neighborhood casino resorts are community destinations. Families go there for the movie theater, the bowling alley, arcades, restaurants, food courts. Children are everywhere. A minor walking through a local casino does not raise alarm. They blend in. I know this not only from the data, but from the children I have worked with through programs serving child victims of sex trafficking. They described as being in plain sight, in lobbies, common areas, and hotel rooms at properties just like the ones reflected in this data. No one stopped them, no one asked questions, no one called anything in. One child I have worked with for years has told me that she met her buyer in the food court of a local casino hotel. He would meet her there, buy her lunch, and take her upstairs to a hotel room. According to the child, this happened 2 to 3 times a week for months. Same property, same meeting place, same routine. And I want this committee to really sit with what that means from the perspective of a child. Imagine the fear, coercion, and survival mindset required for a minor to repeatedly walk through a crowded casino, knowing exactly what is about to happen to them upstairs. Imagine being a child sitting in a food court surrounded by families, tourists, and employees, while carrying the terror of what waits behind a hotel door. That child blended in. She looked like every other teenager walking through that property. And because children are expected in local casinos, nobody questioned why she was there. This is another detail the committee needs to understand. Metro records will sometimes include a room number in the address field. It's listed like an apartment number within a casino. Of the 77 child molestation, sexual assault, and abuse neglect incidents I just referenced, there are 14 examples where a specific hotel room appears in the record. At that same casino and hotel, a Metro case documents an incident occurring over June and July 2019 in room 443. According to the report, a woman was taken to that room, drugged with methamphetamines, held against her will for 3 days, and forced to perform sexual acts with men who were recruited through the internet advertisements. It was a textbook sex trafficking operation. The charges ultimately included sexual assault, first-degree kidnapping, and sex trafficking of an adult. But here's the detail I want you to sit with. The original report did not include a trafficking charge. The final line of the police narrative states that the report was updated to include the alleged sex trafficking charge. It was an afterthought, and that's a problem. When officers respond to a hotel room and encounter someone who has been sexually assaulted, the case may initially be coded simply as a sexual assault. But too often, the larger questions are not immediately asked. Who booked the room? How long has the victim been here? Who has been coming and going? Is this connected to a broader trafficking operation? The infrastructure to ask those questions exists, but the habit and sometimes the systems do not. Metro currently utilizes more than 50 police incident disposition codes, including codes for child molestation, sexual assault, abuse, neglect, and runaway. Yet there is no specific incident disposition code for human trafficking itself. And when the charge is wrong, the response is wrong. Human trafficking investigations trigger different reporting requirements, different investigative resources, task force involvement, and a fundamentally different understanding of victimization and coercion. Without identifying trafficking correctly from the beginning, the dots often never get connected. That same local market casino and hotel where there was a sexual assault reported in 342 in January 2025, and where a trafficking operation was run out of room 443 in June and July of 2019, also appeared in the recent case of State of Nevada versus Nathan Chasing Horse. I do have the trial testimony as well, and I can submit that for the record. Trial testimony and transcripts from proceedings in 2024 and 2026 make something painfully clear. Hotel rooms are not merely the backdrop for these crimes. They are part of the operational infrastructure that allows exploitation to occur repeatedly, systematically, and often unnoticed. According to testimony, over a period spanning more than a decade, Chasing Horse used Las Vegas hotel rooms to sexually assault minor victims multiple times per week. Victims testified that they were under the age of 18 throughout the entirety of his abuse. They described being brought into hotel rooms and subjected to assaults that followed repeated and deliberate patterns. In some instances, victims testified that other men were brought into those rooms as well, buyers recruited for the occasion. While the children were blindfolded and instructed not to move. This is trafficking, and it happens in hotel rooms across the city, including local market casinos. A video recording of one of those assaults was later identified as having been filmed inside a hotel room on a Las Vegas strip, according to the testimony. The FBI and Metro conducted what investigators referred to as a critical outreach. Investigators distributed a sanitized still image from the video to security departments at the hotel and casino properties throughout Las Vegas. A longtime hotel employee ultimately recognized the room based on its furniture and decor. I want this committee to hear that clearly. Law enforcement can already has the infrastructure to communicate simultaneously with hotel security departments across the valley when they determine that a situation warrants it. That infrastructure was utilized to identify the location of a child sexual assault captured on video. So I believe the public, lawmakers, and the hospitality industry deserve to ask some difficult questions. What is the threshold that triggers that level of coordinated response? Who decides when a pattern is serious enough to warrant it? How many child molestation, sexual assault, abuse, neglect, runaway, or missing juvenile reports connected to a property have to accumulate before someone steps back and asks whether something larger is happening? At what point do we stop viewing these incidents as isolated events and start asking the question plainly, is this human trafficking? In February, the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported on a lawsuit involving an off-strip resort and allegations of the sexual assault and sex trafficking of a 9-year-old child and another minor. The complaint alleges that the resort and its parent company were negligent in the response to a man who took the 2 children to one of its rooms and sexually assaulted them. The defendants filed a motion to dismiss, and that hearing is scheduled for today. I raise this because I think it is important that we are honest about the level of violence these cases involve. The trafficking of children in hotel rooms is violent, not only sexually violent, though it is absolutely that, but violent in every sense of the word. It involves drugging, physical restraint, intimidation, threats against family members, and psychological coercion that can alter the course of a child's entire life. The children who came through the programs I worked with did not simply experience a criminal incident. They experienced the systematic destruction of their own safety, bodily autonomy, trust, and childhood itself. Many of them learned very early that the adults and institutions around them either could not protect them or did not see them at all. And this is not confined to the Las Vegas Strip. This is one of the central points I want this committee to leave with today. Much of the violence is occurring in off-strip properties and local market casino hotels. These are embedded directly within our neighborhoods and our communities. These are places where our families gather, where children are expected to be present, and where exploitation can occur in plain sight. Hotel workers, especially those working on hotel floors, often witness the aftermath. They find the rooms, they see the injuries, the damage, the drug paraphernalia, the blood, the signs of fear and coercion left behind after everyone else has walked away. And many of those workers are carrying the weight of what they see with too little support, too few protections, and without clear statewide protocols for identifying and responding to hotel rooms being repeatedly used as sure. So my closing point is this. We cannot continue to treat these incidents as isolated crimes occurring behind closed doors. The patterns are visible. The patterns are visible, but the data is siloed. What is missing is a coordinated system that recognizes hotel rooms on strip and off strip as reoccurring sites of exploitation, requiring prevention, tracking, intervention, and accountability. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today in your presentation. Members, any questions? Seeing none, as you were bringing up the Nathan Chasing horse case, I actually jumped in alongside of you. It was horrific. Everything I read on here was absolutely horrific. And I also am reading that that it looks like he has pending charges even outside of the U.S., I think in Canada, and then there's some charges in tribal nations, which makes it abundantly clear that, you know, stopping it here also helps stop the spread in so many other places, because we are such a kind of world destination. Help me understand. So, you know, I'm reading through some of this, and it's horrific. It's talking about 14-year-old victims and little kids, but this was some years back. Do we know, have we seen data comparing where we were then as to where we are now? how much better are we doing now? Are we still concerned that we're not where we should be? Clearly, that's probably the response, but I'm just curious to know if we've grown, right? If we've seen horrific things happening and that we've grown from that and we have a better trained team, we're better prepared, that our folk know how to identify things a little bit better. Any insight you may have there?
Yeah, thank you. Jessica K for the record. Full transparency, yes, we have grown some, especially since I was trafficked. I was trafficked in 2004 to like 8 or the end of 7. So we have grown, but we are missing so many critical pieces to the puzzle, right? So the hard thing is we don't even really know what we're looking at because we're not collecting data that's really given us anything. If Metro doesn't even have a disposition code for human trafficking itself or child sex trafficking, how do we know how big this problem actually is? I know how big it is because I lived it, right? So have we made progress? Yes, we have. We need stronger programming. We have 0 housing in Southern Nevada for adult victims unless something has opened up in the last couple of months that I'm unaware of. We need clinicians trained in human trafficking. I mean, there's so much. We need survivor leadership. There's only a couple of us trying to do survivor leadership, right? But there's no funding for that. So we have a long way to go. Are we doing better? Yes. I think the other thing is we really have to continue to push back against the narrative of like what happens here stays here and the normalization of prostitution because it's legal in our state is all over our community, right? And sex trafficking looks like prostitution. So we have to be honest about those conversations, right? We can't tiptoe around it, right? It's part of a big system. We need to talk about legalized prostitution, right? So I think there is a lot of work we can do. I'm hopeful that we will continue moving in the right direction, but first and foremost, not only for the hotels and casinos, we need better data within all of our systems. None of our systems really communicate. DFS doesn't talk to this system, right? Everything, there's not a coordinated data system, so we don't even really know how big the problem is.
And I do see that just a few weeks ago, he was sentenced to life in prison, or 37 to life, which is warranted. But I'm curious to know if you could just help educate me. And I know you've walked us through some of the things that we think we should have done better. But using this case, something that's so public and it's out there in the universe, and how horrific these stories have been, walk me through the different, I'm going to call them triggers of trafficking that had we had them in place, we would have identified it sooner, right? In this case, it was individuals who came later and finally had the opportunity and the right moment and the courage and everything that it takes to be able to come out of that horrible scenario. But walk me through some of those triggers in that human trafficking chain. Had we done this, we would have caught it in that hotel room. Had we done this, we would have caught it in that hotel room. Where are those different triggers that you think we can put in place?
I'm going to be really honest. I need time to answer that, to really analyze this, right? I only had a few days to skim through this to understand the case in general, but if you could give me like a week, I could definitely get you something on that. I mean, one, we need more training across the board, right? So even just people understanding what human trafficking is more in depth, I think could change a lot of things. We know that housekeeping, we know that casino and culinary union members are seeing things, right? But as we've heard today, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to report it, right? So even starting there, we have to start somewhere. Getting Metro a disposition code for child sex trafficking and adult sex trafficking, right? But if you give me like a week, can I send you over that? I'm happy to put that together for you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Assemblymember Flanagan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. For education purposes for me, you mentioned that the kid would show up like 3 times in the same week, meet the same person, have lunch, be taken to a room. Are they homeless kids? Are they kids moving in like a group? Because you'll see teenagers, right? And they'll all be hanging out together. Maybe it's all girls, or it's all boys, or it's a combination. And we're just in a very different time of how young people see life, respond to sex, define what is loss of virginity, all kinds of different things with kids, right? Kind of wondering, are they homeless kids? Are they ever coerced by peers? Is it a way to make money? How are they paid? Like everything, like curious.
Jessica K for the record, all of the above. So a huge population is foster care, homeless youth, right? But we also have, I know, and I don't have the numbers with me, but we definitely could get those for you. But I know the majority of our child victims are still at home living with their parents. So they're not actually in programs such as EcoQuest or Embracing Project, right? So most of them are actually still living at home with their parents. They're normal teenagers. They're our kids, our grandkids, our nieces, our nephews. They are recruited via the internet through their friends. All the scenarios that you said are true. The child specifically that I was talking about was in foster care. And typically foster kids are probably labeled as runaways in all these police reports.
Follow, please.
Thank you. And are we seeing, and the consequences, additional consequences like pregnancy or disease, or is there any correlation to the exponential in that space that we're able to track, look at, or realize we need to?
That's an incredible question, and I can look into that. I don't have the answers for that, but I would assume there is a correlation, but I don't know for sure.
And next we'll go to Senator Rogich, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Jessica, for being here. Really appreciate all that you bring to the table and the experience and the wisdom as to where we're headed in this area. What is Nevada's national ranking for human trafficking incidents?
I am not sure off the top of my head. I think the last ranking that I saw was we were 3rd, but I'm not sure if we moved in that continuum or not.
I ask only because I've been told that we've moved into number 1 in the nation. And so
I will get that to you tonight.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your expertise.
Can I say one more thing? I just
Please.
thought of something. The last, Jessica K for the record, the last meeting we had, you had specifically asked me, sir, if I could give you homework. And in the moment, I don't know, my brain, I have trauma brain. So, but there are a few documentaries that I think would really be good for you guys to watch. So there is a documentary called High Class. It's put out by Exodus Cry. It will be screened here a few times in Nevada throughout the summer and in the fall. And I'm also happy to see if I can just send you the streaming code so you can watch it. That is really specifically talking about sex trafficking on the Las Vegas Strip. And it includes some of my incredible survivor sisters that were trafficked here. And it's an incredible documentary. Awaken out of Reno, they put out a documentary that includes my story called At What Cost? And that also is, there's 4 survivor stories in that. We also talk a little bit and touch on the subject of legalization and how that fuels the sex trade in Nevada. And then if you haven't seen Secrets of the of the Bunny Ranch, the documentary, and want to really understand the brothels and what's happening and move away from, you know, just the legalization and the normalization of it and how many people think it's safe, despite the fact that legal doesn't equate to safe. It's eye-opening, and you should definitely watch that documentary. And that you can find on pretty much every streaming service, last I checked.
Understood. Thank you. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Kay. As we were talking, so obviously as legislators, we also have other little part-time jobs. And so I have the privilege of also being a pro bono attorney for children who are in our foster care system. And so you were raising a lot of things, and these are things I don't know. And I was trying to explain it to my colleague on kind of what will happen if a child is trafficked. I mean, the good thing is we didn't hear about it in Clark County, but we did hear about it in Reno, is when people are in juvenile detention, we do have resources that do come in and talk to kids that may get arrested to find out if they're subject to trafficking. And we did have some great resources. I haven't represented someone in juvenile court in a while. That was part of our abuse and neglect. I had a question for you, because I thought that was some stuff that was kind of interesting, is also at an education level, because it is very sad, and it's something we have to recognize, that kids that are in our foster care system that go run away are subjected to trafficking. I mean, that's a reality. Do you know whether or not there's like any education programs for those that are in foster care, so that, because it's almost like I can see how they can get trafficked if they're not aware of it. I mean, it's getting your nails done, it's getting a cute dress, it's things that you're getting exposed to. And it's also like people aging out of the system that are coming back and trafficking other people in the system. And so I was kind of curious, I don't know if that's something you've thought about on educating our youth that are probably most susceptible to being trafficked.
So I actually consult and work with an organization called Unitas. Unitas has a prevention education curriculum that is in New York City, and it is in all 5 boroughs of New York City. And we are seeing a lot of positive outcomes from this curriculum. And it can be taught to, we could do some sort of pilot programs where it's just with foster kids first, and then moving it into Clark County School District. We can tailor it to what trafficking looks like within the state of Nevada. It is a social learning curriculum, so kids actually really enjoy it. And it is set up kind of like, have you ever seen the movie Crash, where it has Ludacris and all these different characters in it, and everybody's connected? So the characters, as they read through their narratives, they're all connected. So it kind of builds a sense of community, right? It's painted like a community. And so kids get really excited about learning and understanding, and the amount of identification. And New York City is doing, as big as that school district is, it's doing an incredible job of helping to intercept and help kids and get them into programs and get them and their families the support that they need. And so I'm happy to submit some information on Unitas, or even set up some sort of meeting with the CEO, myself, and whoever else would like to attend.
Members, any last questions? Seeing none, again, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you. Next, we'll move to agenda item number 6. And unfortunately, we do have some folk that weren't able to join us today, but it is the overview of public safety issues and responses related to Nevada resorts and jurisdictions of certain area commands. And we'll start off with the Summerlin Area Command. If we could please have you join us. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Josh Martinez, Captain with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I brought up Captain Greg Fennis. He just left the Summerlin Area Command. He led that for over two years. He'll be able to touch on the information that you were seeking in regards to the outlining gaming resort hotel properties.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Greg Fennis. I was the captain of the Summerlin Area Command for the last couple of years. I'm still a captain with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I recently transferred to the Internal Affairs Bureau, but my my experience at the Summerlin Area Command, I would just like to give you a brief understanding of what a normal day in the life of a police officer in the Summerlin Area Command looks like and what their interaction is with the casinos. Now, in Summerlin Area Command, we had the Resort of Summerlin, which was formerly known as the Rampart, the Sun Coast, the Red Rock Casino, and the new Durango or newer Durango Casino. And at the beginning of an officer's shift, they go to briefing with their sergeant, and they get the most recent updates. And if we're looking for anyone who's recently committed a crime, that type of information is passed on to the police officers during the briefing. Immediately after briefing, they'll go out to their cars and they log on and they look at the screen of the computer in their car to see if any calls are pending. Could be a call in the neighborhood or maybe a bad driver or something at a casino. And those calls are all prioritized by the dispatchers, and they're dispatched as soon as they get logged on and they start handling those calls. They would typically take those calls if there's nothing holding, or if they don't get assigned to a call, then they go on proactive patrol. So maybe they'll look for speeders or someone in a high crime neighborhood they believe might be committing a crime, and they do proactive work. They drive through our neighborhoods and through our businesses. For the casinos to get officers to proactively patrol on their properties, it's typically done if an officer has downtime. Maybe they'll stop by a casino for a cup of coffee or for a meal. Outside of that, they don't spend a lot of time proactively focusing on the casinos themselves. Because they have a larger, for example, Summerlin Area Command is a very large area, and we have 10, almost 11 now, or soon to be 11 area commands. But Summerlin Area Command goes from Cheyenne all the way down to Warm Springs, and then Rainbow West all the way out to Red Rock Canyon. There are over 200,000 citizens that live in the Summerlin Area Command, so they can't spend a disproportionate amount of time just patrolling the casinos. So they're responsible for the entire area command as well as the casinos. That would change if there were something specific where we have intel saying, you know, there's likely a likelihood of trouble brewing in an area. So as an example, the downtown Summerlin shopping center is right across the street from the Red Rock Casino. And occasionally we'll see on social media that some teenagers are planning a takeover of sorts to flood the downtown Summerlin shopping center. And a recent post garnered over 10,000 shares and likes. So something like that, we don't know how many of those 10,000 juveniles who've expressed social media interest in taking over downtown Summerlin are going to show up, if any. So we will surge the downtown Summerlin area with officers, just trying to, a lot of police cars and a lot of officers to kind of show the kids that we don't want this type of bad behavior. And because the Red Rock Casino is just across the street, we would send a couple of officers over to the Red Rock Casino, and we would coordinate. A big part of my job as the Summerlin Area Command captain would be to establish and maintain relationships with the security directors at each of these properties. So I would reach out to the security director at the Red Rock and tell them, hey, we've got some social media interest at downtown Summerlin, and he would then surge his security. Maybe he would pull some officers from the Durango or other station casinos to help him with his property, in addition to surging police officers from Metro, just as a preventive measure to try to tell the kids, if you're going to come here, you need to behave and not commit any crimes or damage any property. So that's kind of the proactive or the reactionary work that we would do with the casinos as pertains to police officers in Summerlin Area Command. If the hotel properties request or require more officers than that, then they would be asked to hire them in an overtime capacity. So sometimes there would be maybe a concert or some other, and Captain Dennis would be able to tell you more about what happens on the strip for even the larger, like T-Mobile Arena and things like that. But in Summerlin, the Red Rock Casino oftentimes hires overtime officers. The Durango does as well, just to have officers on site to walk the casinos. And rather than if something happens, the casinos, maybe they don't want to wait on 311 for to be called in the priority of their call. So they would want officers on site and on hand to handle any instances of crime immediately. So if that's the case, then they would hire overtime officers, and they would be on the property for the duration of the time that they're hired for the overtime. I'm happy to take any questions, but that's a general overview of how we patrolled the casinos and the nearby properties in Summerlin Area Command.
Chair Josh Martinez for the record again. I'll just give you a couple statistics that we looked at and pulled. And I know you requested somebody from Northwest Area Command to be here as well. We were unable to make that happen, but I'll go ahead and cover their data. And what you heard from Captain Fennis about the day-to-day operations of Area Command, those day-to-day operations are going to be the same at the Northwest Area Command as well. Those are our traditional patrol area commands that are staffed with patrol detectives, patrol officers, crime specialists that go out and do site surveys and help businesses improve their site security through our CPTED program, which is a crime prevention through environmental design. And then, of course, their open front office staff as well. So they're busy. They have over 200 employees, and each one of those is led by a captain. So I'll start with the Northwest Area Command. And the three categories that we pulled were drugs, narcotics offenses and events, gun crime events, and forcible sex events. And we did a 6-year period. So we went from 2021 up until April of 2026. And when you look at drug narcotic offenses, we had 6 events in 2021 at Northwest properties. And in 2022, we had 1 event. In 2023, we had 0 events. And 2024, we had 1 event. And 2025, we had 3 events. And then January through April of this year, we had 0 events for a total of 11 events related to drugs and narcotics. And then gun crime events that took place the same time period is 2021, we had 5. 2022, we had 1. In 2023, we had 4. And 2025, we had 1. And then January through April 2026, 0 for a total of 13. And then I know from the previous individuals that had spoken up here, talking about the human trafficking in regards to casino, hotel, resort properties on the outside of the resort corridor. Forcible sex events that we had in 2021, we had 2. 2022, we had 0. In 2023, we had 1. In 2024, we had 2. 2025, we had 2. And January through April 2026, we had 0 for a total of 7. And that, like I said, that's in the Northwest Area Command. And for sake of time, the Summerlin Area Command, I'll just go to the forcible sex events that took place. And just to give you, we didn't look at all the properties. We left 1 property out, but we could get you that data. We could get you a little bit more accurate data if I need to. But this is a good reflection of, I think, of what the numbers are out there. And these are our reported NIBRS numbers, which is the reporting numbers that we have to do for the federal government. So they're standardized across the country. In 2021, we had 8 in Summerlin. 2022, we had 7. 2023, we had 0. 2024, we had 4. 2025, we had 6. In January through April 2026, we had 0 for a total of 25 events over that time period. Just want to give you a picture, and we'll be able to submit this data that we have. I have Captain Dennis from our Convention Center Area Command, which encompasses the Las Vegas Strip. And we have some information that I'll be able to submit to in regards to data for time of the committee. I'll turn it over to him, and he'll be able to explain what his officers do on a day in, day out basis to make sure that the public is safe down there, the officers are safe, and the tourists that visit our town are safe.
Good afternoon. For the record, Captain Chris Dennis with Las Vegas Metro Convention Center Area Command. Captain Martinez asked me to come in here and speak with all of you and go over kind of what that encompasses, how we communicate with our strip partners, and some of the technology that we use in areas that we target. So just to give you an overview of how we're structured and what that encompasses, the Las Vegas Boulevard Convention Center Area Command encompasses Las Vegas Boulevard from Sahara down to Russell, then goes as far west as Valley View, which includes Allegiant Stadium, the Palms Hotel, the Rio Hotel, and then goes as far east as the Virgin Hotel over there. So kind of how we're structured is we have roughly 5 shifts. That's your normal day shift, swing shift, and graveyard shift. And then we have a 4th shift that is mainly a proactive shift, that their job is to go out on the strip and be highly visible, proactive, and help prevent crime. Then we also have 3 detective squads that go out and investigate various types of crimes all on Las Vegas Boulevard. So some of the ways that we communicate and help prevent crime on the strip with our strip partners We have a monthly meeting with all of the heads of the casinos. And in that meeting, we discuss crime trends, we discuss technology that can be used, and then we'll discuss patterns and practices that they would develop. We also do the same thing with all the nightclubs on a bi-monthly basis where we'll meet and go over crime specific that you see inside of a nightclub. Some of the things that we've done to help prevent crime in those meetings is we have our crime prevention specialists will go out and then teach classes on kind of see something, say something. These classes usually include various members of the hotel. It could be anyone from their security team, back of house, your bar backs, your bartenders, anybody that's going to be working there that could see something, say something, understanding how to identify human trafficking, understanding how to identify and prevent sexual assaults from occurring. So our crime prevention specialist works and teaches those classes with our vice unit and sexual assault unit as well. So those are some of the ways that we communicate with our Strip partners. As far as some of the technology that we've implemented and use, our real-time crime center at Fusion Center has cameras up and down Las Vegas Boulevard. They utilize programs like Flock, ALPR, and then Core Force, which Core Force is gives us technology and the ability to log into certain remote cameras up and down the Strip during certain times. If there's a critical event going on, we set up a contract with that property that's outside of the casino, and they'll allow us to log into their camera systems. With that, I can answer any questions that you might have for me.
Thank you, all three of you, for joining us today. Members, any questions? We'll start off with Senator Lane.
Thank you for your presentations, and I do appreciate everything that you're doing to help keep us safe, the Strip safe. What I'm missing is the connect between what's happening in the casinos, and we've heard workers, culinary members, and others tell us about guns and knives and all kinds of things happening there. And so we have what Metro is doing, which I think is really great. And but I'm missing the connect on how we keep the people in the casino safe. And I'm wondering if you could respond to that, because you tell me that you're having meetings with the security staff and stuff, but then I don't see what's happening to keep the workers safe. I mean, I'm scared to go down there. I really don't go to the Strip that often. And I don't work there, but I can't hardly imagine how they feel.
Well, I could tell you that based on the classes that we teach, a lot of it is an educational piece with the workers in the casino floor and with their security. We work hand in hand with them. We do occasionally joint operations where our officers will go inside the casinos, mainly our proactive officers, and do casino sweeps with some of the security teams up and down the Strip. We have a very open line of communication. Anytime they're having large scale events at these casinos, they share that information with us on a regular basis. If it's a big enough event, they're going to have to hire overtime officers from Metro that are going to be on property. And then at the same time, our guys will go in that actually work the Strip and just do a casino sweep and walk through those casinos in order to help prevent any crime inside of there.
Thank you. And I think that's really great. But I think what we're missing is the day-to-day activities that are happening that maybe you, because it's not a big event, aren't there all the time, right?
Even on a day-to-day basis, our officers are going inside the casino to do the casino sweeps and working with security. I apologize, Captain Chris Dennis with Las Vegas Metro.
Okay, so just if I could, I'm just trying to grasp this a little bit more. But if I'm thinking about the worker that's going to the room and finding knives or guns, or in the restroom and finding knives or guns or whatever paraphernalia, how do they get the support they need to feel safe and protected? I mean, I don't know if you can answer that, because I appreciate everything that you're doing, but I'm just trying to figure out how we close that gap.
For the record, Captain Dennis, I'm not really sure how to answer that question for you. I can tell you that based on our crime numbers, those numbers are down. So I do think the casinos and them working with us, it has been effective.
So is there a way that, because what we heard from workers is that they're reporting and they're not getting any response, not from you, but inside the resort corridor. Is there a way that, do you have a system set up, like if they aren't feeling like they're getting a response, they can respond to you and tell you what's going on? Because maybe your numbers are low because you're not getting the information that you need.
Josh Martinez for the record. I think there is the communication, as Captain Dennis has alluded to. They have monthly meetings. The sheriff meets with the properties as well. And I don't know if what you're explaining is just perception by some. I'm not here to put blame one way or the other, because, you know, I could feel safe somewhere and you may feel unsafe in that same location. And as Captain Dennis said, all of these technologies that have been put in place, but also the day-to-day policing, the visibility of the officers that are out there. We do have funding that designates officers specifically for the resort corridor, and we've had that for years now to beef up that staffing level. He's implemented specific teams that are out there for proactive activity, that go out and make contact on a day-to-day basis on the resort properties. They're going in and out of these establishments all the time, every day, making contacts and communication with security. And what you're saying, Senator, is if an employee reports a gun or knife or narcotic paraphernalia, or they see something, then they want to say something, that's the question that Chair asked last time, is what's the reporting mechanism? And we can't answer for the properties. So Captain Dennis is correct. We can't answer that question, but the reporting mechanism for us is we encourage any citizen, employee, person that's visiting our town, pick up the phone, call our dispatch center, create a call for service, and that's how we're going to respond. And as you heard Chief Soferino from Reno say, is there's only a couple ways that officers are going to be engaged: a call for service, or if we witness something that's taking place in front of us, or we're stopped and hailed by a citizen or an employee to tell us something's taking place on that property. All of us have worked patrol here at some capacity and been stopped by a citizen at a property, working overtime or working our day-to-day shift, and then we go handle that. So that's where I think is, for what we're doing, call Metro. We're going to show up. If they need to report something, if you have contacts at your local area command too, show up. During business hours, the front counter's open. Come, report it to us, and we have a duty to investigate that. And I just want to give you a couple of numbers for, you're talking about weapons, Senator. So gun crime numbers at properties located in the Convention Center Area Command. And it's the same time periods as I gave you for the other resorts, 2021 through current time. So in 2021, gun crime events, and that's an event where a firearm is listed as an offense, and that's on a property only. It's 2021 was 202, 2022 was 134, 2023 was 157, 2024 was 98, 2025 was 73, and January through April of 2026 we're at 23, for a total of 687 events during all of those years that I've mentioned. So as you can see, since 2021, every year after that, it has decreased significantly, and that's due to the partnerships that Captain Dennis is talking about.
Thank you so much.
Next, we will go to Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. And I have to say, I go down to the Strip to events just like a couple weeks ago. Actually, it seems like a lot. I went to the Sphere, and I want to say your guys' presence there, I feel safe, whether there's like big events going on the Strip. So cops, and then you park far away, so you have to walk. So I appreciate your guys' presence there when those events are happening and on the Strip, whether it's bike riding and wearing your yellow shirts and being available and accessible. I did have a question because I'm very intrigued by the technology aspect. It seems like and I've had the pleasure of being on a tour of one of our properties back in the day, and I think this was like probably 5 years ago, and being able to see where technology was going with respect to the property technology, along with, and I don't know if they're camera pods or what they are, but do you think that is helping you guys address matters faster? And then also with the pods, I'm really intrigued with this just because I see them all around town where you guys have cameras that may be at a grocery store parking lot, things like that. Are they working and I assume maybe deterring crimes in different areas?
For the record, Chris Dennis, yes, they are extremely helpful and very useful to us. Both the camera systems inside the casinos and the camera systems up and down the boulevard, they are extremely useful for us. And the technology that we have out there to read license plates and track vehicles after crimes is committed has been a huge help to us.
Please follow.
And then I have a follow-up because I think some of the, we saw like, we've heard like a gap, like obviously you guys as officers are doing arrest, maybe investigating crime, but then it leaves there and then it's handed over obviously to the district attorney. So we have a gap between our law enforcement and then to the courts. I know we just passed the last special session, a bill that will now create a focus on a quarter court. Do you think that will help with like kind of following different cases to see really maybe where crimes are at and also maybe hopefully slow down habitual crimes that may be being committed?
For the record, Chris Dennis, yes, I believe it would be very beneficial and very helpful to us, but we do understand that it's not mandatory for them to do that. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. Part of my comment might be a recommendation or a request for us as a committee, and the other is a question. And you mentioned, the officers mentioned that you can't speak to what happens in the casino in terms of their security protocols. So I think we've had a couple of these meetings. Maybe it would be beneficial if we could get some casino representatives for security to come and talk about how they actually respond or what the correlation is between working with Metro, working with hospitality and culinary workers to say what actually is their process. I'd love to hear from them because you can't speak for them on what they do and you're Metro. So I'd like to see, and we each know that each property has its own security team. So I would like to hear that if we could at some point invite them. The question I have has to do with correlation between crime and tourism. As we're talking about crime, guns, drug paraphernalia, sex trafficking, are you noticing any correlation between crime and how it affects our tourism? I know our goal is to keep the strip corridor as safe as possible, but do we get any just sense or feedback?
Josh Martinez for the record. We don't see, Senator, we don't see any correlation that would go through, we can't relate it to say, hey, crime has an impact over here. We just simply could say, our crime's down and our effort is to make it safe. So folks that are booking a trip, they feel safe coming here. That citizens that live here feel safe going down there. And that's why we have the visibility. We can't speak from the business side of things. We could simply speak from the public safety side of things. And that's to make this the safest community in America, as our vision states. And every single day we deploy our resources out there to achieve that vision.
Assemblymember Cole, please.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. So my question is tied to the last presenter who I believe I understood said that there's not a specific charging code that you would use in an arrest for sex trafficking. And is that accurate or did maybe I misunderstood? Thank you.
Josh Martinez again for the record, Assembly member, that we would have to look into that so I could speak correctly about it, but it's not a charging code. What they're talking about, I would say more specifically, is disposition is what they were talking about. So anytime that we have an officer go on a call, they clear the call with a disposition, and then the disposition could be A for arrest, right, is an example, C for citation, or B for citation, It's how we categorize those. And then when our analytics from the dispatch center go in and pull what dispositions are to particularly related, but then you would have to cross-reference those to the event number and the reports to see what the report was actually taken for. And then you would have to read through the narrative as well to look at, and so that's where you have a lot of steps. And I don't think, so dispatching is one thing, and then the actual report and reporting is one thing. And as I said before, when we talk about our NIBRS numbers, which is the national crime base where all of our numbers are reported to, they have specific criteria that we have to label things as in order for them to accurately account for Metro's crime numbers at the federal level.
Please follow.
And when you do your research on this, can you tell me if there is something specific on the NIBR for the reporting of human trafficking or sex trafficking or whatever that might be?
Josh Martinez, for the record, we will do that for you, Assembly Member.
Thank you.
Senator Rogich, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming today. Could you please discuss the protocol of what occurs when Metro receives an anonymous call about an incident in a guest room? So when you arrive on the property and responding to that call, do you go directly to the room, or do you have to go through security first before accessing the room?
For the record, Chris Dennis, it would depend on the type of call. Obviously, we have certain programs set up with the properties, one of which is called the Pathfinder program, where they'll meet us at the door based on the level of property and get us to wherever the incident is taking place as quickly as possible. Just because those casinos are so large, they have a better understanding of the fastest way to get to certain places. So it really just depends on the level of call.
So when you receive that call, you reach out, if I'm understanding you correctly, you reach out to security to advise that you're coming down to the property.
For the record, Chris Dennis, they'll know that we're coming most likely if they're the ones that called, or if it is an anonymous call, then they're going to see us on property and they're going to immediately contact us and ask us what we're doing there. And then if we need assistance in getting to the room or wherever the call may be taking place, then they're going to help direct us there as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any additional questions? The only question that I have is, do we have, and I understand that you clearly are not speaking on behalf of any particular property, but just through your lens and when you're responding to a call, is there a uniformity on procedures in place between how the local security force for a particular property interacts and works with you procedurally, and then also just on their data as they're working with you and they're sharing that information with you? Is there uniformity across the board, or does it vary property to property?
For the record, Chris Dennis, for the most part, it is fairly uniform on how they handle situations. Like answering the last question, they all kind of operate the same way. When we show up on property, they're going to meet us as we're coming in. We're going to explain why we're there, or if they're the ones that had called, they're going to tell us where the event's taking place. And they all have, as far as like information sharing, it's all very similar. There's some little intricacies. They all have some little differences, but for the most part, it is fairly uniform.
And I know we went quickly, Captain Martinez, through the data, and I'm just kind of reading back through it. But have we noticed a pattern when we think of the strip corridor versus properties off the strip? Is there a pattern in terms of uptick, downtick of human trafficking, drugs, or weapons-related calls? Or do we think that it's pretty similar when we're talking about off-strip versus on-strip?
For the record, Chris Dennis, I can't say for sure, but I would say obviously you're going to see upticks during larger scale events and bigger weekends. You're going to see upticks in all sorts of crime that's going to come here. People will come here just for the purpose of victimizing people.
Understood. And I know, and I forgot to our northern partners, but it wasn't until you walked us through kind of that mechanism that you have in place now where you get together, you go through X, Y, Z, that you're already coordinating and working together. I'm sure that that's the product of why we've seen those numbers going down over the years, just consequence to all the work that you're doing. You're continuing to build on the work that you're doing. So we do appreciate the work you do, and we hope to continue to be an ally and work alongside of you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, we appreciate the work you do. Thank you for joining us again today, and hopefully from it we can identify just better ways to equip our folk who work on the Strip every single day to be safe, equip them with just better, whether it be reporting or just training, so that we have a better understanding on how they can assist you in keeping that safe, that Strip as safe as possible. So thank you. Thank you all.
I just one last thing, Chair, if you don't mind. It was trying to jog my memory here for Assemblymember Bacchus about the DA. So one thing that we implemented a few years back is we have a light duty officer that's long-term, that's down at the DA's office, so we could improve that communication, reviewing cases, getting access to cases, having a timely, getting things that they may need from an investigator to the DA's office in a timely manner. So we've improved that communication, improved that function, which has helped us be more successful too in our prosecution efforts.
Great. Thank you, Captain. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out those last agenda items. Captain Martinez, we got all that information from you all. I know we had also listed you as agenda item number 7, but I wanted to make sure all that has been out and flooded. Thank you. So next we'll move to agenda item number 8, which is public comment. Those of you who did not have an opportunity to join us for public comment at the beginning, this is your opportunity to do so now. I'm going to invite those wishing to join us for public comment either in Carson City or Las Vegas to please come forward. I don't see anybody in Carson City. And I believe we got some folks joining us in Las Vegas. Is that correct? All right, perfect. I do see some people coming forward. Please feel free to occupy all 3 seats. If there's a seat empty, please feel free to occupy it. And just as a reminder, we ask that you please limit your remarks to 2 minutes. Should your remarks be longer than 2 minutes, please feel free to email those to the committee and we'll make sure they get uploaded so we can hear the full breadth of your testimony. Whenever you're ready, whoever wishes to go first, remind you that the microphone is on when you see it green. You gotta press the button right at the bottom and that should get it going.
My name is Gabriela Garcia. I have been a culinary member for 27 years. I used to work as a guest room attendant. I once cleaned a checkout room and picked up a piece of paper. When I turned it over, I saw a photocopy of young girl driver license. On that paper, someone had written the word health. The name of the ID not match the guest who had rented the room. I froze. I feel like somebody was begging for help. I called security. They took the paper, but I never got a real explanation. Now, as a house person, I found aluminum foil, drug pipes, and condoms in stairwells all the time. Sometimes I find needles in a guest room, bathroom, and even on the nightstand. I'm told to call someone to pick them up, but if they don't come, I put the needles on cap and leave in there because I'm not trained. I also deal with guns. One time, guest was locked out of their room and became very angry, yelling because his gun was inside. Another time, I opened a room and saw a gun lying right on the bed. I walked out immediately and reported. I didn't feel safe. I don't feel protected at work. We don't get enough training. We are mothers, workers, and immigrants who are just trying to do our job. We should have to work in fair. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
My name is Tara Caroni. I've been a steward and a culinary union member for 9 years. I am proud of the work that I do serving travelers every day. But based on what I have seen and heard from my coworkers, I am deeply concerned about the safety of children and families in places in the airport. A coworker took my shift one day in the Seagates and told me about an incident that has stayed with me. A man was sitting with a little girl who was about 11 or 12. He kept talking to her in a way that made all of the people around him extremely uncomfortable, telling her that the people in her life did not love her and that she was with him now and everything would be fine if she stayed. A businesswoman sitting alone nearby was so alarmed, she didn't feel safe confronting him. Instead, quietly got the server's phone number and started texting the server about the situation. The server called 911. The businesswoman followed the man and the girl to the gate until Metro arrived. We never found out what happened next, but everyone also involved could see that in case it would possibly be abuse or trafficking. I also see parents who let their children go to the bathroom alone and walk around the airport by themselves. This is a high-risk environment. Sometimes people are too trusting. Airports and large public venues need to have strong, clear protocols and training to identify suspected trafficking and protection of minors. Workers like me on the front lines, we see this situation up close. We need real tools, training, and support to keep children safe. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi inglés no es fluido y por la importancia de la situación he decidido hablar en español para poder expresarme lo mejor posible. Mi nombre es Lázaro Gómez. He estado trabajando como houseperson por 7 años. Quiero compartir dos cosas estremecedoras y muy importantes para mí y para todos mis compañeros con las cuales he tropezado en este tiempo que llevo trabajando como houseperson. He encontrado en el trabajo cosas que demuestran lo poco preparados y capacitados que estamos. La primera fue cocaína encima de una mesa de vidrio en una habitación de un guest. Las líneas estaban bien definidas, una tarjeta de abrir la puerta de la habitación al lado y dispuesta a ser, o sea, se veía que se había consumido. Informé de ello a mi supervisora y ella lo único que dijo fue límpialo con un trapo húmedo. No hubo informe, no hubo seguimiento conmigo, simplemente límpialo y sigue adelante. La segunda fue un arma cargada con 2 cargadores adicionales en una cabina de un nightstand. Eso fue aterrador. Yo no estaba preparado para ello y entonces me sentí sin capacitación sobre lo que hacer. Le envolví cuidadosamente en una toalla y la llevé abajo a mi supervisora. Ella a la oficina de mi manager. Ella se quedó impactada. Pasado de 12 a 15 minutos después, lo único que dijeron, apareció seguridad y lo único que me dijo fue nunca más vuelva a tocar un arma. Nada cambió después de eso. No hubo política de claridad, no hubo capacitación adicional o informe escrito. Pienso en ello cada vez que entro a una habitación. Ahora reviso cada rincón, observo la cintura de las personas que me rodean. Ese miedo no se va. Les pido que requieran una capacitación práctica, manual, no solo en módulo rápido de capacitación por computadora, para que los trabajadores sepan qué hacer cuando encontremos drogas o armas. Si me permiten agregar algo más, creo que la senadora Lynch está muy clara y tiene mucha profundidad de cuán inseguro es la realidad, la cual nos sentimos los que trabajamos en esa esfera. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And I will quickly try to summarize that. Good afternoon. My English is a bit limited, so I prefer to share my remarks in English. My name is Lázaro Gómez. I work as a housekeeper, been working there some years, and I wanted to share some of the things that I've seen and how unprepared we have been and we are at times. For example, on one occasion, I recall finding cocaine on a glass table. And I recall notifying my supervisor, to which my supervisor indicated that I needed to sweep it away and throw it away and just simply ignore it. On a different occasion, I recall finding a weapon on a nightstand, and I remember being in shock and freezing. I remember wrapping it in a towel and taking it to my supervisor. At a later time, security made contact with me, and they simply told me to not touch a weapon again. But no protocols changed, nothing. There was no new protocols implemented or better training. We do need better training, and I hope that the training is not just something on a computer, but actual training in person with all of us. And I wanted to echo that Senator Lang sees, and I agree with Senator Lang with what she brought up, that she sees just how difficult it is for us on this trip, and we need to do more. Gracias. Please.
My name is Nicholas Chate. I'm a doorman, and I've been a culinary member for 20 years. I want to talk about what it's like at the front entrance dealing with traffic, cabs, rideshare, and guests, where the public meets the property and where we are expected to manage dangerous situations with almost no real protection. We were told we were going to get safety buttons almost 4 years ago. To this day, I still don't have one. Meanwhile, I'm out here dealing with drivers and guests every single shift. When I tell some rideshare drivers to move into a different lane or follow the traffic pattern, they get argumentative. I've even had a driver threaten me with a gun when I told him to get in a different lane. I'm just doing my job, trying to keep the driveway safe, but suddenly someone who is dropping off or picking up guests is threatening me. There was another incident where a rideshare driver and one of the traffic controller workers from an outside company got into it. The driver hit him with a crowbar. One of our workers had to step in and save him from being hit again before security even showed up. But that's the reality. Workers are stepping in because security isn't always there. And sometimes by the time they do get there, it's a half hour, hour later. Everything's done, everyone's dispersed. Sometimes when security shows up, I've literally seen them hiding behind a wall or on their phone instead of dealing with the situation. Front of house workers are the first one facing dangerous situations at every single door, every single shift. We need trained security guards who are present at every door people walk in, and we need working safety equipment, and we need it now.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members. My name is Diana Valles, and I'm the president of the Culinary Workers Union. I would like to share a selection of stories from workers in our industry who were not able to attend today due to the working schedules. I want to share the story of Gladys. She's a 20-year-old guest room attendant in the Valley. She reports that one day she entered into a room to clean it. An older man and a very young woman were living together. Inside, there were only men's clothes in the closet, no woman's clothing, no woman's toiletries in the bathroom, but there were condoms. This made her think, is this woman safe? Is she here because she wants to be? She did not report these incidents because she and her coworkers are taught to just clean and move on. And here, I will quote directly from her testimony. I want real enforceable standards. When guest room attendants report something suspicious or unsafe, I want security and management to take it seriously, document it, and protect us. Hotel workers like me are the ones who see what really happens in hallways and in hotel rooms. We deserve training and strong policies so that we are safe at work and so that vulnerable people we may encounter are better protected. This is another story. This is the story of Matthew. He's a New Year bellman and limo driver in Las Vegas. I will quote directly from his testimony. On weekends, it's common to see a young woman pull up to the valet, walk in, and then an hour or two later, walk right back out. I see that partner all the time. There was even a period when a bartender at our casino lobby was basically pimping out her friends to a regular guest. We all knew him as Mr. Kiss. I've also seen guns at ballet. We call the manager who calls security and they take 15 to 20 minutes. Meanwhile, that firearm is either in the car trunk or on a cart in the lobby. I don't feel security at work. I feel like a number of expendable. I'm asking you to require clear, enforceable protocols and real training on sex trafficking, drugs, and firearms to make safety proactive instead of waiting for workers or children to be the list. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to come forward and join us for public comment? I thought you were joining us for public comment. You're just turning off the microphone. Thank you for doing that for us. That's very kind of you. So I don't see anybody else wishing to join us for public comment. If we may go to the phone lines, anybody wishing to join us over the phone for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Understood. So before we adjourn, I wanted to give both the members and everybody joining us a little bit of a heads up of kind of how we think we're going to move forward. We'll be meeting on one more occasion, and we're hoping that we have an opportunity for all of you, the workers, our members of law enforcement, and our great partners in gaming to have an opportunity to have a conversation to see where we think we can collaborate. And as we understand, Nevada is the gold standard for gaming. And the only reason they can do that is because of the amazing workers we have in this room and the workers who are taking care of our casinos as we speak. That's the point, right? And we will continue to be that gold standard as if we continue to invest resources, time, and have this joint commitment of making sure that our workers are safe, that our tourists are safe, that our folk that every single day come to this property are safe, visit our properties, better said, are safe, and that our members of law enforcement can do that job to the best of their ability with us collaborating, working together. So that's the objective, that's the agenda, and we hope to be able to come back together at least once more to achieve that objective. And with that, members, I appreciate everybody's time. This meeting's adjourned.